All right, here it is. Latest Copart purchase. It's 2007 Suburban. It's actually a clean title. It's not wrecked. It was a donated vehicle, and I used a broker to purchase this because I'm not a dealer, so I'm not allowed to bid on clean title vehicles. So what happened was I picked it up. I drove it maybe 2 or 3 miles, and the oil pressure just dropped completely. It dropped down to about 10 psi, not zero. So I think I know what the problem is, and that's what we're going to get into today. All right, first things first, we're going to jack it up. I got these heavy duty jack stands right here. They're pretty hefty. I don't have access to a lift, so we're going to be working on the side of the road today. So we're going to get it up in the air, and then we're going to get underneath it, and we're going to start from there. All right, truck's up in the air. First thing we're going to do is drain the oil. There's just a 15 millimeter bolt that comes out. So we're gonna let that drain. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take out this cross member right here and then drop the oil pan. Once we drop the oil pan, hopefully we will see the problem. But let's get there first and then we'll talk. Let's go. All right, so the next step, remove this brace right here. It goes from here to there. It's just 4 18 millimeter bolts. So I just held it with one side with a wrench and used my impact there, 18 millimeter. Take it off. You might want to clean those bolts up because mine were really dirty. This truck's got 200,000 miles on it. Also looks like this oil pan gasket is leaking. There's a bunch of crud out under here, so not a bad thing that we're taking the oil pan off, so we can replace that gasket too. So 4 18 millimeter bolts. I gave it a couple of whacks with a hammer and it just came right out. So next step, remove the oil pan. All right, so we got the pan off. So basically it was like 13 10 millimeter bolts, and then these two long ones were also 10 millimeters. These were at the back here and here. These were 15 millimeters. These went from the transmission right here and here into the back of the oil pan. And then there was a sensor here on the right side that you need to unplug, and also a couple brackets like right here. You take off that bracket. It's also a 10 mil that will help you get to, I don't know if you can see this hole right there. This one, these are in the front of the car, so you can see the pulley right here. So this is the front. Also, I had to drop down the steering rack for clearance. Here's the steering rack here. So these are like 22 mils, I think. These are really tight, so I hope you have a good impact wrench or a breaker bar. And then also an 18 and an 18 up here for the other 2 bolts for the rack, and you just drop the rack down for clearance. And then the oil pan will drop off. So let's get under here. There's your dipstick, so you can check your how much oil you have. Here's the pickup tube, and this is what we're going to take off next, because I think what the problem is right here. The pickup tube goes right there, and there's an O-ring in there that typically goes bad. So that's what I'm hoping that the problem is. So we're going to take it off. A bolt here, here, and then finally there's one right here. So there's 3 bolts, and then the pickup tube should come off, and we can inspect that O-ring. So that's next. So here's the pickup tube, and just as I suspected, the O-ring is cracked and it feels really brittle. I bet you I could break it. Yep, look, I just broke it in half. So that was our problem. It's a very cheap fix. You can probably go to AutoZone a couple of bucks and get a new one. That's what I'm gonna do. Just in case you were wondering, this nut and this nut were 15 millimeters. And this one was 10. Yeah, so I'm gonna go get a replacement part for this. I'm gonna clean up this oil pan real good. It's really bad, it's really nasty. And we're gonna get this gasket out and we're gonna replace the gasket and get everything cleaned up and put it back together. So that's next. And I'm probably gonna eat lunch because I'm starving, and I will see you in a couple hours. All right, everybody, we're back. Got a new gasket or O-ring or whatever you want to call it from AutoZone. It was like $4. It's nice and rubbery and squishy. It's the old one, 210,000 miles on it. I cleaned up the oil pan as best as I'm going to. Looked like it missed a couple of oil changes in there. But now we're just going to put everything back together. It's just a reverse of everything that I showed you before. So I'm just going to go ahead and crawl underneath and start with the pickup tube, and then I got a new gasket right there. If you still have the original gasket, which this one did, you have to drill out the rivets that hold it in. There's two of them, one here, one there, and then the old gasket just pops off. This one still had the original gasket on there, so I got that off, cleaned up the mating surface, and yeah, just gonna put everything back together, and then we'll give it a first crank, see what the oil pressure looks like. Hopefully it's all fixed, and then this video will be done. All right, got the oil pan back on. I haven't buttoned everything up yet, but I wanna start the car first, see if we fixed the problem. So I'm gonna fill it up with the oil. The battery is dead because it's been sitting for a while, so I'm gonna have to jump start it. But yeah, let's fill it up with the oil and then just crank her up, check for leaks, and see if the problem went away. All right, got it filled up with the oil. I checked for leaks, didn't see anything. I got the jumper cables hooked up, so I guess now is the moment of truth. We're gonna look right there. Hopefully it goes up to 40-ish or so. So I hope it starts. Oh, she's dead. She did. Yeah, she did. Okay, so I ended up putting a new battery in it. We're gonna give it a crank and hopefully it'll make it up to around 40. That's the goal. So here we go. And there it is. 40. That's exactly what I wanted. All right, well, we got the Suburban running nice now. So just wanted to go over a couple of things. This was a clean title, run and drive donated vehicle from Copart. And just because it's a run and drive doesn't mean that it's in good shape. It just means that the engine will turn on and they can move it back and forth a little bit. So in this case, I got pretty lucky that it was a pretty easy and cheap fix. It could have had rod knock, it could have had all these other things that would have been worse. I could have had to replace the engine, which wouldn't have been a huge deal, but it would have been a lot more expensive. So my advice to you is to always go and look at the vehicle that you want to bid on. If it's across the country, then yeah, you might have a harder time doing that. But in my case, I only bid at yards that are close to me. So I live near Austin, so I have an Austin site, I have the Waco site. There's one in San Antonio that's probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours away. So I have at least 3 yards that are within 2 hours from me, and if I extended it to 3 hours, then I'd probably have about 5 yards from me. So go and look at the vehicle before you bid, because you will have a lot better understanding of what you're going to get yourself into Which brings me to my next topic, the drift Lexus, the GS 300 that I bought for 225, I think was the final bid. That one, after taxes and fees, and then I got a late fee because I picked it up a day late, ended up being about $500 all said and done. That thing, I didn't go and see that one. I bought that one sight unseen because I was like, well, $225, what's the worst that can happen? Well, this thing was a complete basket case. The more I looked into it, the worse and worse it got. And it just, to me, just wasn't worth investing any more money into. So what happened was I ended up selling it as a parts car to another GS 300 owner. I sold it to him for exactly what I had into it, so it was a complete break even. And it was one of those cars, had I gone and looked at it, I probably wouldn't have bought it. It was just too many things wrong with it, and it just wasn't worth investing any more money into. So the Suburban that I have now, it also has a couple of small things that need some attention, nothing major. It runs and drives great now. It actually drives a whole lot better than my other Suburban that I have, that I bought as a private sale. So like I said in the beginning of the video, this is a clean title vehicle. It's not wrecked. It had a clean background. I used a broker to buy this one, which I will make another video on how to use a broker. It was super easy, but there are some things that you need to know. So I'm going to make a video on my experience using the broker. So stay tuned for a whole lot more videos from me. I got a lot of things coming up. So drift season is right around the corner, so I have some more drift content coming up soon. We're going to do a few more things to the drift vet, and so keep an eye out for that. And we'll see you guys on the next one. See you later.